Hi everyone, I'm David Wojcik and this is MBOT TV. Stories we covered this week: Minister Mitzi Hunter addresses MBOT members. Members gather to learn how to save energy. Mississauga Board of Trade and Metrolinx launch a series of business information sessions on the LRT route. BDC opens its second office in Mississauga, and art for your office is up for auction. And our weekly political update with Brad Butt, who has news on the Ontario government ramping up business inspections, on health, safety, and employment standards, pay transparency legislation, provincial election candidate update, and much more. Welcome to MBOT TV, a weekly recap of what happened in business at the Mississauga Board of Trade and around the city of Mississauga. Minister of Advanced Education and Skills Development Mitzi Hunter joined MBOT members at Mindshare Workspace to discuss programs affecting business. The minister did take time to highlight some of the details of the provincial government's recent budget.
We committed to increasing the number of science, technology, engineering, and math, our STEM graduates, by 25% over the next 5 years.
Minister Hunter also outlined new programs which will be introduced under the proposed budget should the Liberals be successful in forming a government on June 7th. With hydro prices spiraling out of control, MBOT members and guests assembled to learn some valuable tips on how to save energy in the workplace.
Even starting small with a couple of projects or one person's ideas, a lot of those savings can really add up to significant amounts over time. And then also keeping in mind how we think about energy at workplace versus at home. I know that when I leave the house, I don't leave a single light left on, whereas leaving the office place is usually a different story. Sometimes you don't always have control on that, but it's something that we should be thinking about a bit more often.
More energy-saving seminars are planned for the future, including a Climate Smart certification program available through the Mississauga Board of Trade. The Metrolinx Business Readiness Information Sessions launched in April with two powerhouse speakers. Roland Stanley and Darshpreet Badi help businesses who will be affected by the new LRT understand what to expect and why this will ultimately be a great benefit to business along the route. The BDC celebrated the grand opening of its second office in Mississauga at 201 City Centre Drive. BDC recognizes the volume of high-potential growing businesses in Mississauga. One of the BDC success stories is Dominic Meffe, founder of Monte Carlo Inns and a former winner of the Mississauga Board of Trade Award of Excellence as Business Person of the Year. BDC specializes in helping entrepreneurs grow by providing funding and consulting services. The Art Gallery of Mississauga is holding its annual art auction to help support the gallery. Executive Director for the gallery, Mandy Salter, gave some highlights of what to expect.
Essentially, we are holding a very formal art auction with over 40 wonderful and eclectic items reflective of the AGM's first, new, and next communities. So the evening will present a welcoming reception, wonderful food and cocktails, sponsored generously by Square One Oxford Properties.
Yeah, so in our Grand Rotunda, I mean, what a wonderful, magical space. It's kind of a lighthouse. That's all when it's lit up at night. It's on the doorstep of our flagship retailer, Holt Renfrew, in our luxury wing. And we think it'll be a really nice, elevated, simple experience where interested buyers and also those that might be in our center at the time can be able to take in a little bit of fine art in an environment what they might not normally.
The auction gets underway at Square One this Thursday, April 26th at 7 p.m. MBOT's annual business directory is gearing up for its 2018 edition. This directory is distributed to thousands of businesses in Mississauga and is a one-stop source to find suppliers. Don't miss this opportunity to promote your business and brand. Would you like to see your business advertised to hundreds of MBOT members every week right here on this banner? Call Sonia Oja or Hilary Jewer for details and elevate your brand today. And now for our political update with Director of Government Relations, Brad Button. Brad?
Thanks, David. The Ontario government has had a flurry of announcements lately in the lead up to the provincial election, some of which will become law before the legislature adjourns around May the 9th. Ontario is conducting more than 24 inspection blitzes in 2018-19 to ensure employers are meeting health and safety and employment standards at workplaces across the province. Enforcement staff will be visiting workplaces such as warehouses, big box retail, grocery stores, chemical manufacturing plants, pulp and paper mills, hotels, golf courses, healthcare organizations, mines, and construction projects. In particular, sectors with new and young workers, temporary help, vulnerable workers, and a history of low compliance will be targeted. The provincial government has agreed to work with federal agencies to strengthen climate-related financial disclosures in Ontario. The government believes increasing public access to this information will help investors make more informed decisions and give businesses more incentive to innovate in an era of climate change. The Ontario government has introduced legislation that would ensure that people working in construction, building, cleaning, or security jobs under contracts with the government will be paid the fair, prevailing wage in those sectors. The proposed Government Contract Wages Act 2018 would, if passed, allow Ontario to establish minimum rates of pay for workers in the construction, building, cleaning, and security services work, requiring contractors and subcontractors to pay according to those rates. This wage policy would be enshrined in legislation. The Ontario Chamber of Commerce has responded to the government's Pay Transparency Act legislation, asking that the Pay Equity Act be looked at first and properly resourced to help businesses comply, rather than bringing forward a new law on pay transparency. The OCC is asking that employers be recognized as willing partners in achieving pay equity in Ontario. Rather than attempt to achieve this goal through legislation alone, government should act as a resource and a steward, seeking partnerships with industry leaders. While we have seen progress over the last 30 years, employers require greater clarity, tools, and guidance to go further. Well, the Ontario NDP released its election platform, proposing an increase to the corporate tax rate to 13% from 11.5%, significant spending increases in health, education, and social services, providing drug and dental coverage for all Ontarians, a 30% reduction in hydro rates, and changing student loans to grants to eliminate student debt. Tanya Granick-Allen, who was a contestant for the leadership of the Ontario PC Party, has won the nomination to be the candidate here in the Mississauga Centre riding. The Liberals and PCs have now nominated candidates in all 6 Mississauga ridings, with the NDP and Green parties finalizing their candidates shortly. NAFTA has now moved into the discussion rather than negotiation mode with senior political leaders in all 3 countries involved. Media reports say that the finalization is getting very close, with only dispute settlement mechanism, supply management, and the steel and aluminum tariffs left to be handled. The Canadian Chamber of Commerce reacted to the Supreme Court of Canada decision on interprovincial trade last week by saying, while the Supreme Court has recognized that Section 121 of the Constitution Act prohibits laws whose primary purpose is to impede interprovincial trade, we are disappointed that they missed an opportunity to take a historic step forward for freer interprovincial trade with a broader interpretation of Section 121. Today's decision will only reinforce most of the barriers that currently impede trade within Canada, driving up costs and hurting Canadian consumers. At a time when businesses are already facing challenges and uncertainty, a broader interpretation would have eliminated many of the protectionist practices that stand in the way of their ability to grow and prosper. In the wake of this decision, it is now critical that the federal, provincial, and territorial governments redouble their efforts to modernize the rules governing interprovincial trade through the Canada Free Trade Agreement. And finally, the Toronto Region Board of Trade released a report on Monday calling on the next provincial government to harmonize and reduce business education property taxes in Ontario. The report cites high energy, labor, and housing costs as significant impediments to business competitiveness. It also recommends to reduce the overall tax burden on business, to free up more funds for employment and investment, provide a response to the U.S. corporate tax cuts to increase investor confidence in Ontario, benefit all businesses, particularly small businesses most affected by high energy and wage costs, and promote fairness by eliminating different tax rates in municipalities across Ontario. Back to you, David.
Thanks, Brad. And here's what's coming up at your Mississauga Board of Trade. On May 2nd, Membership Matters is at MBOT, a session for new members to discover all the great benefits that your Mississauga Board of Trade has to offer. Seasoned members are always welcome to stop by for a refresher. On May 3rd, an economic outlook with Royal Bank economists who will outline the impact of the federal and provincial budgets going forward. On May 17th, Growth and Power presents The Mechanics of Success with Jamie Holmes, the mastermind behind the Master Mechanics franchise. And save the date for our annual MBOT 9 Dine and Network Golf Classic on June 20th at the Royal Woodbine Golf and Country Club. Details about these stories and events are available at www.mbot.com. Until next week, this is David Wojcik wishing you continued success in your business.